Okay. It's not about only business. It's about fun. That's why I put it here. Yeah. Yeah, it's me. First of all, we will talk about voice over IP words today, but we have a kind of history as well. I'm not sure you are interested in or not, but voice over IP is a kind of a next big thing because I'm doing that. So it will be another next big thing. I'm doing this for a long time. I have different interests, such as voice over IP hacking, fracking, some hardware hacking stuff, IoT hacking, network infrastructure, CP. They are all different things, but there's a pattern here. I focus on the voice over IP and the consumer devices and the environment. And based on this fact, I combine all those skills to create a kind of outcome. And I was trying to create a kind of voice over IP awareness around here for a long time. I have presented my research at Black Hat USA, DEF CON, Hack in the Box, OCERT, Troopers, RacksCon, and a few other security conferences. And if you want to reach them, those are the links. I was trying to explain why voice over IP security is important these days. And at the first place, I was talking about the SIP security issues. It was good days, but I couldn't get impression. We talked about it as well. And I decided to target a major vendor to create this awareness. Based on this fact, voice over IP was based on Cisco. At the first place, I have shared some mobile zero-day vulnerabilities during my presentation about targeting the clients. And also, I have released my own tool, VPRO, there. And I have released a bunch of vulnerabilities related to the protocol stack, but no one cared. OK, I moved on for voice over IP wars 2. It was a kind of story of a kind of research, but it was a kind of engagement as well. And I have combined some additional skills to create a kind of outcome through that research. The first things are the VPRO modules, actually. They are exploits, new skinny support for Cisco tests, and some SIP authentication support for Cisco. And after that, I have released 30+ vulnerabilities, including 10+ 0 days, which are actually still valid. And we work with Cisco, actually. We try to protect our customers as well. We are not the research monkeys. We are trying to provide consultancy to protect our customers as well. And we worked with Cisco. However, Cisco couldn't fix some of the bugs because of the design issues. And then I have released those exploits with Cisco's permission, of course. And then I have provided another research. It's a kind of workshop this year. So voice over IP wars was provided in DEF CON, and voice over IP wars 2, the second episode, was available on Black Hat and DEF CON sessions and some other international conferences. And the last one is a kind of workshop. So if you want to reach the details, you can easily search for them. But I'm not the only researcher for the voice over IP area. Thanks to Offer, we know that too many voice over IP issues are available in the wild. And based on his research, J.S. Nostrom's research, also Mark Collier's, and also Sandro Gauci's research, they were so impressive. That's why I started voice over IP. But here's the thing. I decided to play with another vendor, which is Microsoft. And I was not the first. J.S. Nostrom and his team worked on it as well. If you want to get this research and the video, you can easily search for that. The video and the tools, some of them available in the wild. But Lync spoof is not. I couldn't find Lync spoof. It's a tool to connect to this Lync environment. But it is using the Microsoft libraries to test the Microsoft environment, which I do not prefer. Because we will target that environment, and we will attack that environment using their own tools. There will be some restrictions. That's why I have followed another path, which is slightly different. Also, I investigated the other issues which were targeting the same environment. And this is the first stage of this research. So we are talking about a kind of new research targeting the Microsoft Skype for Business environment. We are talking about the first stage. So our outcome is slightly It's not so big as you expect, but there are still goodies, and I will share them. We try to reach to understand what kind of designs are implemented in the wild. For example, call centers, commercial implementations, cloud services. We focus on them to identify their security requirements because they're all unified communication systems. So they have some security issues common. Also, we try to develop a tool to test their design requirements, policies in use, and debugging some protocol issues and information collection. They are so important for us. So we developed a new tool. And yes, we will release some of the components, such as 3 new vulnerabilities and other stuff today. But we will release some other stuff in our second stage of this research. What we talk about is basically Skype for Business. And I will explain what is that. But before Skype for Business, we will talk about the modern threats targeting the UC environment. And after that, we will focus on the security requirements for the different various designs. And then we will talk about vProxy, how we can use vProxy, which is a new tool, as a part of vPro, but it can be used standalone as well. And we will demonstrate some of the issues we already identified. Unified communications is not a new thing. We hear it maybe 5, maybe 6 years. But the thing is, it is evolved. It is now known as IP Multimedia Subsystem, IMS. Also, we have different implementations, such as call centers, corporate environment, or hosted environment, cloud environment. So we have different concerns. And there are different attacks targeting those environments. And our concerns are slightly different. For example, for commercial services, we should spend some time for the client security. But on the other hand, we should work on the encryption and privacy for the hosted environment. So it is slightly different. And we have new attacks. We were talking about the toll fraud, right? And it is old, as much as the frackers. We had denial of service attacks as well. But nowadays, we have different types of attacks. For example, manipulating the signing protocols to target the environment or the clients, or attacking the mobile clients using the voice over IP protocols, or hiding some botnet activities through the voice over IP traffic, RTP or SIP signaling. So threats are evolving. But we have another vendor here, Microsoft Skype for Business. Unified communications implementation of Microsoft Skype for Business is so complicated. We have Active Directory and the Microsoft environment integration. It also has some DNS features to provide federation and federated voice over IP networks. And also, Skype for Business has modified their traditional protocols. For example, SIP has additional extensions for this environment. Also, XMPP is in use. Also, Outlook Web Access, Exchange, they're a part of this environment. But there are other stuff. For example, PSTN gateways and SIP trunks are still there. And device support. Yes, Microsoft has various vendors, such as Polycom. They have device support for them as well. Because it's a kind of unified communications environment. And mobile services will be there as well. Because we need to connect people, each other. And here's the thing. It is not for only corporate communication. Some of the call centers still use Microsoft Lync as a kind of infrastructure. And also, Office 365 is still there. And it is a kind of commercial service. And you can buy it as a kind of service or as a kind of cloud service. It's slightly different. There are some additional products in this area as well. OK, voice over IP basics. If we talk about voice over IP, we should have some additional classes because it is so detailed. But this is the basic diagram of a voice over IP sign link. A client should be registered to the server. This is our perspective. So we use register for that. And Server accepts this registration using third-party authentication or NTLM authentication or digest authentication. It doesn't matter. We can send all requests after that. This is how SIP designed. In reality, we don't need register, for example. Some SIP trunks directly use invite. Or we can easily use subscriber options to initiate some additional attacks. And I have already demonstrated some of them in my past research. Here is the thing. If we initiate a call, we need to send an invite. And that invite request will be handled by the server. And the server will say that, OK, I'm working on it. Just trying? Please wait. Meanwhile, it will send another invite request to the client. Please be advised. That invite request can be manipulated. It is not prepared by the server. It is forwarded by the server. Server strips some headers out. It changes the SDP content. And it changes some additional details. But still, we have a kind of access to the client, the target client. And if the target clients, accept the call, they can send 200 OK, or I'm busy, or other stuff. And then we will have a kind of handshake. This invite request and 200 OK will have additional features. For example, SRTP encryption and other additional encryption details. We will talk about almost all of them. This is why I'm showing this diagram. If you have a kind of successful handshake, we will connect client A and client B. But the thing is, they may have a kind of network issue to connect each other. As a solution, we use RTP proxies. So every one of them will have an RTP proxy, or there will be a kind of RTP proxy in share. In the Skype environment, they prefer one single type of SRTP, which is asymmetrical encryption, which is not good as well. This is how we see the Skype for Business environment. Skype for Business environment is not the environment you know. When you hear Skype, you hear, that's Skype. No, this Skype is not that Skype. First of all, Skype is your client application. And Microsoft acquired the company, and Skype is Microsoft now. Microsoft had another product, Microsoft Lync, for the universal communication. So basically, they provide Office Communicator and other stuff for that. So now, they are actually being a kind of creature. And they call all the platform as Skype. So we have various devices as Skype clients. And we have some additional hardware devices as well, as IP phones or teleconference devices. And we have some additional Windows backend. And at least we should have one single PSTN gateway to go out for the calls. But we have additional features. If you are a company, you should pay less for the communication, because you will have a communication, a kind of living communication infrastructure. All the employees will call each other, but calling is not required anymore. We need meetings. We need collaboration. We need to share our laptops. We need to share our presentations. We need to work on a kind of whiteboard. And we need to do this using the federated environment. Federations are designed to communicate different networks without any extra setup. So basically, this Skype environment will trust another environment. In this case, it is XYZ Enterprise. Skype environment, needs at least 5 servers. Domain controller, Exchange, standard Skype for Business server, Office Work server for the office collaboration, and the Edge server. Edge servers are the SBCs in our traditional voice over IP system. So they are actually protecting everything inside, which are vulnerable. So they are basically firewalls of the voice over IP environment. Those are the client features. There are some interesting features on those clients. For example, they can initiate meetings or instant messaging sessions or calls with third parties, including some public contacts. You don't need any Skype software on your laptop or your mobile. When you click a meeting link, you will be redirected to a web page to be connected to another meeting, which we don't know when it will be available. We have only the link. The thing is, we need a kind of client for that purpose. That's why Skype for Business has another web client as well. For mobile platforms, they have various clients. And all those clients have features I'm interested in with this feature. And the features here, which are sharing the desktop, giving the control to someone else, or working together for office collaboration. They are important because the clients will touch each other, even they are part of a kind of federated environment. Let's say ABC company and XYZ company. They are two different companies, two different enterprises. They do not want to pay for the communication. That's why they do not use a kind of service provider for that, for the PSTN connection. They use unified communications and internet. And the clients call each other using email. And they share their laptops. So clients do not know what they are dealing with. No IP address, no details. In this meaning, Skype for Business has a good security perspective. I really like that. Because essential security is enforced, which is pretty good. For example, SIP over TLS is enforced for all types of clients. They say that if you do not support TLS, don't connect to me. The second thing is SRTP. It is in use by default. But with symmetrical encryption, we'll be there shortly. Let's talk it later. Also, it has SIP reply protections, because we can use UDP for actually being fast, being faster than TCP. But the challenge is UDP is broken, and we all know that. As a solution, we sent some requests a few times. I have some additional attacks already discussed in my past research. For example, we can use multiple answers as a kind of denial of service component. So we can initiate a kind of distributed denial of service attack using UDP spoofing. So Skype for Business is protected for the replay attacks. So if you send your request again using the same signature, it will be not executed. The second thing is it has some checksums for the content headers and the content. So you cannot easily manipulate it. Easily. Also, the clients. Clients always validate the server certificate. If it is trusted, it is good. If it is not, it asks, do you want to really connect this certificate and the server? Are you sure? Because certificate seems not valid, or something is wrong with that certificate. So client has a kind of control here. If client accepts that certificate once, you cannot be the man in the middle easily, because it is well protected. Nice. We'll be there shortly. SIP trunks. We need SIP trunks because we need to create a kind of environment. And this environment should be federated. But we cannot force the partners to use Skype, right? They may use Avaya, Cisco, Asterisk. So we need to be compatible. So let's talk about the basics. PSTN gateways and SIP trunks must be in use and must be defined. Mediation server component of the Skype for Business is in use for this purpose. It has TLS service enabled by default, but the thing is, it supports TCP as well. And the authentication problem is, it has no authentication. Actually, I sent an email to Microsoft to discuss about the other issues. Meanwhile, I asked this. Is there any authentication between the SIP trunks? They say that we rely on the IP security here, we assume that the trunks are connected securely already. So there's no authentication between the trunks, only the IP address. We'll be there shortly again. So some of the components are so secure, but it depends on the components we target. Corporate communication policy is also important because we need to share some details with our employees, because employees will invite someone else to attend a meeting, and they need to know what they are dealing with. That's why we use policies to enforce them for some essential security settings. That's why meeting codes and other features are slightly important. And we can enforce some security policies for specific user groups or the users. In our pen test, we may have various targets, and they may have restricted or unrestricted platforms or settings. So we need to test those settings to say that your policy doesn't match the policy written. It doesn't fit. So please be compatible or update your policy or the implementation, because sometimes we do PCI compliance tests. We hate it, but we do. The second thing is we have additional stuff. For example, client types. We can enforce client version. If you have no patch, do not connect to my environment. It is awesome. Yes, can be altered. We'll be there as well. The policies can be set through the Skype Business Control Panel. But the thing is, it has some limited options. And some default options are pretty insecure. For example, external access control has enabled communications with remote users and enabled communications with public users features. Those are features enabled by default, and these policies will be implemented and enforced for all users. So they can all share everything. Also, meetings, they have various options, and they're in use. So Skype for Business is a beast. You need to manage it. It has really good options, but you need to configure it well. Otherwise, it will be insecure. This is not Microsoft's fault. This is an implementation problem. So we need to test the implementation problems as well. And if we leave the configuration to the clients, clients can set these settings in their, on their desktop. For example, this is a screenshot of a desktop client for the meetings. They can send a link to someone else, which we don't know, without any restriction, to share its laptop or invite them for the meetings. So there is no restriction here. And they can invite everybody, nobody, or they can just invite themselves. We don't know. There's no restriction here. And there's no authentication enforcement or settings enforcement. The problem with SRTP is symmetrical encryption. Do you know that symmetrical encryption needs a static key? We all know that, right? If client A and client B will be connected to each other using a secure way, using symmetrical encryption, they need to share the key, right? But they have no connection way, they have no physical controls, they cannot reach each other. How can they share the key to protect the session? The answer is SIP sign link. They need to share the key inside the invite context. SIP TLS is enforced for the clients. It is pretty good. But SIP trunks may be configured to not use TCP TLS. If this is the case, all the connections can be decrypted easily. You can extract the key, you can capture the communication, you can use Wireshark to extract the content, you can decode it, you can use Wireshark to resend it back with a header, and after that you can play it. I have already demonstrated this in the Art of Voice over IP hacking workshop training in DEF CON. Security testing is the key here. We talked about the environment and the other essential stuff. Okay, how can we test this environment? Because it's a beast. We need to test the configuration, we need to test the implementation itself, we need to test the design, and we have no tools. That is the major issue, actually. There is no tool to test the Skype for Business environment. Okay, forget about it. There is no tool to test the unified communications environment. There's one exception, known as vPro, for now. But vPro has no Skype for Business support. So, activate Windows now. Sure. Let me click you and activate. So, we have some requirements for the testing. The first things first, we need a kind of methodology. So we need to develop a kind of Skype for Business testing methodology. And we need a kind of tool to test it. But we have no tool to test this environment. The second problem is we need to focus on some additional features which should be tested. But we cannot implement all. For example, meeting features or collaboration, sharing environment, giving the control. We cannot create clients, support all of them. It's not possible. I'm not developing a Skype client to test the Skype itself using the same Skype libraries. It doesn't fit. That's why we have 3 ways. The first things first, we have the ways, and I will explain how we can do this. First of all, we need to test the compliance and configuration analysis. So we need a kind of access to the environment. And our clients do not share these details with us, mostly, and we need another way. MITM analysis. We can use an MITM tool to intercept the traffic and debug or manipulate it to target the environment. Or we can use a custom security tool, which is vPro for now. I'm modifying the vPro's features to make it compatible with the Skype for Business environment. It is still capable of testing all the unified communications environments, but Skype for Business enforces 2 different types of authentication: Kerberos, NTLM, and TLS-based authentication, certificate-based. So I have not implemented those features to vPro yet. But vPro has additional features. So you can enable the TCP TLS services of the Skype to use vPro, but if it is a test environment. If it is not, vPro is useless for now. We are still working on it to make it better. But also we have another tool, vProxy 2.0. And we focus on the configuration details. We focus on the protocol level vulnerabilities for clients and the server. And we focus on the environment and design issues as well. Discovering Skype for Business environment is slightly easy. You don't need a tool, but we will add some features to vPro to make it automated. They have auto-discovery features. If you have a Lync client, also known as Skype for Business client, with the update released June 2015, you need to give the domain first. For example, Fatih at senseofsecurity.com.au. Skype for Business client, Lync client, will discover that domain using DNS services to identify that, which services available. For example, SRV services and enum. And after that, it will use the auto-discovery domains using a brute force to identify the subdomain. For example, auto-discover, Lync internal discover, Lync discover, and etc. It will be a kind of brute force. And after that, it will retrieve the XML configuration of the client. And after that, it will ask a kind of username and password from you. A kind of, because it may use NTLM pass-the-hash, or Kerberos, or TLS. So it depends on the server declaration. So those services leak information. But also, there are some additional web services. If the environment wants to support meetings with public people, they need to share the meeting codes. So meeting services are available in the wild. So you can access to the meeting components, even you have no valid meeting code. So you can get some details. Also, you have additional features, for example, web tickets and actually web sessions. They are connected to the Skype online services as well. They are completely different, but they work together because of the name. Also, you can trigger some server errors to collect some information. For example, IAM filter. It's very good to get some version information and some sensitive IP addresses. MITM analysis. Yes, you can do this, but your current tools will be useless. You need to modify them. First of all, Microsoft Lync will use threaded communication. So it will open the threads for each window. You need to support the authentication for all. You need to provide SIP-TLS interception. You need to supply a digital certificate already impersonated. And you need to disable the encryption, otherwise you will see binary. And it's not easy to search and replace. That's why I've developed vProxy 2.0. We already released vProxy 1.0 last year, but it was so immature. But this time, it has features. vProxy 2.0 is a standalone Metasploit module, so you can easily modify it, and you can easily expand the features. It is pretty useful to intercept the TCP/TLS calls. So basically, it provides basic TCP/TLS sockets between the connection endpoints, and it disables the compression. Also, it modifies the actions of the official client. So we can drive the official client to target the environment. We don't need to know the environment, and we don't need to support all the features of Lync. We don't need to implement collaboration features to vPro. We can use vProxy. We can change things we need on the fly. Those are the good things. Also, it provides a command console for on-the-fly manipulation. It doesn't work just like run and go. When you use it, you need to set a kind of replacement file if you want to design things before starting. If you want to change things on the fly, you need to connect to the console. And this console will use commands you already instructed. This is how it works. Basically, we need a kind of client to drive. I prefer Mac client because it has support for all platforms, but it is slightly flexible than the Windows ones. But vProxy works with both Windows and Mac clients. So you can easily put vProxy like that to intercept the traffic. And you can easily use basic search and replace and bypassing communication policies for the client or the server. It depends on your configuration. For example, servers may enforce some features. For example, disable those features because you have no rights for these tests or for meetings and etc. Those are settings will be pushed to the clients, but you're in the middle and you can override these settings to enable those features in your client. So basically, you can bypass some policies. Do you remember the client version enforcement? You can easily change your client's version to connect. If you want to test the different client types, it is also possible, and you can report that you support vulnerable Android or iOS or Windows clients as well. It is important because we will release some issues, some vulnerabilities for the Skype client environment. And also, we can analyze the corporate policy as well. We should analyze, actually, the instant messaging options. Which options are available? What kind of filters are in use? And also, call forwarding rights. It is also important. If you are an admin or if you have a right, you can forward someone else's right, someone else's call to someone else. Again, call of A will be redirected to the call of B. And there will be a kind of binding. This is slightly dangerous because you have call parking features and call transfer features as well. And they are based on the user rights. But you are in the middle, and you can override the settings on the client side. Or you can change the requirements. There are some anomalies there, which I will not share now. But I will refer why I do not share all the details. Meeting rights. It is also important because, by default, no authentication required for the meetings. This is important because it provides public access. And also, we have insecure client versions and attack surfaces. We talked about all this stuff, but we have not discussed about attack surfaces. We found that IAM filter is one of the attack surfaces because IAM filter will parse and convert the content sent. So it will process the content. It supports multiple content types, including the images, HTML, RTF, and all other stuff. IAM filter is one of the targets. And also we have additional XML parsers and base64 parsers as well. And also, this is the important part. Voice over IP is a kind of magic, because during the sign link, a kind of dangerous things happening. For example, you can send an evil SIP signal to target the client. And without client's interaction, you can do things. Let's say attacks. Let's say code execution. Clients will process the presence, user presence information, and update messages. Also, they will accept the invitations. They may refuse it or not. It doesn't matter. They will process it. Mass compromise using malicious code. We can inject a kind of malicious code to the headers or the content. We can do both. If the client parses the request, the invitation, and fails, we don't need user interaction. When we use our MITM tool, we used some kind of different fuzzing techniques. Most of them were manual testing, but those are some of them. I couldn't share all the details because we are working with Microsoft to fix them. And I couldn't share all the details with Microsoft even, because I'm still working on them, and I do not want to release remote code executions like that. Honestly, we want to protect our customers, yes, but we want to complete our research to show our experience and sharing the tools with your community. I mean, we need each other. It's a kind of mutual relationship. We are feeding the community, and community feeds us. And the vendor is an important part of it. But we need to work together. That's why I shared this presentation with Microsoft before this actual presentation. And those are the bugs I have already identified. There are some XML parsing errors. And we have IAM filter parsing issues. We have some exceptions and deserialization errors, which are pretty important. They are not client bugs. They are Skype for Business service bugs. If you turn one of them to a remote code execution, you can search Skype for Business in the wild. There are too many Skype for Business services available because they rely on the client enforcement, because you have no testing tool to target the Microsoft Lync environment. So it is pretty obvious, I guess, finding an exploit for Exchange and finding an exploit for the Skype for Business environment. It is almost the same. By the way, they use edge servers as a protection, but they are still vulnerable. Okay, I will not share the details about the server, but I will share the client vulnerabilities today. Those exploits, demos, and the tools will be released after Microsoft Security Advisory. And we are still working with them. And we hope to release all the tools and the security advisories with their patch. So this is a basic bypass. What we do is basically using code obfuscation to bypass the URL filtering available in the Skype environment. So clients cannot send URLs each other. It is allowed by default, but you can disable it. The filter is basic search and reject. If there's a kind of pattern, for example, HTTPS, HTTP, www, it is not allowed. I enabled it, and after that, I used script execution. But there is another vulnerability is hidden here. And when we sent this request, we can easily redirect the client somewhere else. Let's say our web page. This is the demo of the issue we identified. vProxy is running here. This is vProxy. These are my clients, and I am connected to a Windows client. This is a VM. So when the client sends google.com, it is okay, because there is no HTTP or www. So Skype for Business doesn't convert it to a link. But if you send a link, you will be also disconnected. So you need to reconnect the session, the IAM session. I used regular test, and regular test is still there. So what I do is connecting to the vProxy console. vProxy is the magic word to enable this feature. And using the bypass URL like that. It is available right here. Bypass filter function. And it basically bypasses the feature. So the filtering doesn't work because we basically change a pattern. If we use bypass URL, the pattern will be here, and we will auto-replace it, and we will inject our link, and the web page will be open. That's all. When we see that, it was pretty funny. We have other issues. But we can still send some HTML content through the communication. I have released zero-day bugs for other clients, and no one cared. I have released some zero-day bugs for Cisco, no one cared. I hope this time people will care, because we will release some zero days for Microsoft Lync Skype for Business environment. But opening a web page is a kind of, you may love me, right? So we did something else. Okay, invite requests are in use for signing, right? And the client will process headers and the content, both, before your notification. Because the client needs to know what's going on, who calls us, and what's inside. If it is an IAM session, there is a header here. The header is MS IAM format header. There will be 3 headers. The header is same, but type is important. Text HTML, text RTF, and text plain. So it sends 3 of them. If you send a text HTML header inside the invite request, you can easily put a base 64 encoded content. So this content is a basic redirection using of the same request. What I did is Microsoft Lync client can connect another client, right? So we will use invite requests. What I did is manipulating the invite request on the fly, injecting this header, basically searching and replacing the header. If there is a kind of invite subject, we remove it, we put our malicious subject there, and the request will be transferred to the client. And the victim will open a web page. Here are the restrictions. The client may have execution restrictions or domain restrictions. So we have problems. So we have to bypass them. That's why I use HTA file to trigger a fake Skype update, because users may execute HTAs without domain policies and execution. So if they initiate a Skype update coming through the Skype without any user interaction, they can accept it. That was the idea. So this is the video. Just a sec. Really? Come here. Yep. Fake Skype update. What's going on? Yep. Just a sec. The VMware player is suffering. It doesn't release mouse. Yeah, it released. Okay. This Skype client will connect our VoIP proxy, and after that, we will send the malicious request. The left side is the VoIP proxy console. VoIP proxy is running as a Metasploit module, and we can connect to the console. And the left side is Microsoft Lync client, and the right side is Windows 8.1 x64 client. So it is fully updated. What we do is executing our proxy using those features. Basically, we define the actual SIP server as a backend, and we provide a fake service to our customized client. And we will modify everything on the fly, and we initiated some handlers to handle the reverse shell. And we need to configure our Lync client to connect our VoIP proxy. So this is our attack surface. Yeah. Client doesn't know what we are sending. So you will see the actions. The first of all, we connect to the console as VoIP proxy, and we can give any command. In this context, we put invite subject command here. And invite subject command is a basic command, and it will replace the invite header. And it will add this link, which is a Skype update HTA redirection. When we send this, this is our client. We are basically sending an invite request. Hi. So what is happening is we got a pop-up. Meanwhile, we triggered a kind of Skype update, and it is Microsoft HTML because it is HTA. So it asks as a kind of Microsoft component. So Skype for Business update is there. He clicked a basic update. We don't need any interaction to trigger this, but we need interaction to click HTA. Meanwhile, we have a shell. Here's the thing. Our client will be disconnected because the client immediately disconnects after this execution. Meanwhile, we have a shell because of the HTA execution. Again, we need two different things. The first thing, we need to open a web page. We don't need any user interaction. We can send it bulk. We can send it as a kind of invite header. And the second thing is, we need a kind of social engineering exploit, or a zero-day, or a kind of browser exploit. When we combine two, we have easy win. We don't need to use or know what's going on the client side. We don't need to know what IP addresses or configuration are available. We don't know where are they. Maybe in a different location. What we do is popping a web page with a fake update. Okay, even I share this, you may love me. So I improved that. Because no one cares cross-site scripting, even I don't care. So honestly, Skype for Business is vulnerable for multiple cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. What we are doing is using cross-site scripting through the desktop client. It is cool. But we need to make it better. What we do is multi-endpoint communication. Multi-endpoint communication is an easy way to initiate meetings because we don't need user access. You saw my client, right? You saw my Lync client. You think that I need authentication or credentials, right? To the environment. But this is not true. First of all, invite request headers will be forwarded through other SIP trunks. It will be in use for the meeting requests. When you invite multiple endpoints, let's say all the company users, when you inject endpoint header to the request to call everyone, when you handle a meeting request to connect this environment, you can do this attack for all users. But this time, we will use another vulnerability, not the invite headers. We will use the message content. I have demonstrated this last year using Cisco environment. No one gives high five. I mean, okay, let's do this and let's try this using Microsoft environment. Again, I will use cross-site scripting because I had a dream to exploit all the clients using one single exploit like that. And I just realized that there's no this, because you need to execute your remote code, shell code on multiple platforms, 32 bits, 64 bits, or ARM, or iOS, Android. There's no. So I remember that there's a basic way, JavaScript. It is valid everywhere. So that's why we found those issues. And we use HTML. It is a basic HTML. You can use this to target the client. But what we do is slightly different. If you send this request to the users, you will get a notification on their desktop, which is okay. But good news is, Microsoft client, Skype for Business client, doesn't care users' actions. If you do not pay attention to the notification screen, it will be accepted already. The good news is, before the notification or after the notification, it depends on you, you can send a message as well. And the message will be processed by Lync HTML converter, which is also vulnerable for the other attacks, URL bypass and invite. And it will decode it. It will execute the JavaScript inside the client context, and it will put it to the queue. So if your target accepts the call, it will be open. But we don't care. Our script was already executed during the conversion. That's why we can send multiple meeting requests or invitations or a basic redirection to redirect all clients, regardless they use, mobile or desktop, to initiate bhooks, to trigger attacks customized for their platform, providing Android APK files or iOS exploits or HTA updates or maybe a browser attack. Mass compromise of clients is not so easy. So we don't know which components are vulnerable. So I used two different clients for this case. One of them was Windows 8.1. One of them was Windows 7. They have cutting-edge Skype for Business clients, but they have some browser issues. Some plugins were not updated. Let me open a parenthesis here. Skype for Business installs another plugin to the browser environment. I'm still working on it. If we find an issue related to the browser component, we don't need any other issues anymore. But for now, we need a kind of browser issue as well, because we will trigger a kind of browser to visit our malicious site. We may ask their credentials using a fake corporate page. We can ask a HTA update. We can force a Skype for Business. Yes, but I will use browser autopound for that, for the multiple users. And now, this is our diagram. My targets are two Windows systems, this one and the other one. They have users connected. And this is my attacker Lync client. And we can easily set other exploits. I initiated browser autopound because I don't know what kind of exploits available there. And I put my content in this context. And the proxy is running. I will connect back to the proxy console to inject my HTML content. And we will see, is there any user interaction or not? What we do is connecting to the server at the first place through the proxy, vproxy. So everything is successful now. This is our server settings. As you see, it is connected to the vproxy. So this is my malicious client. So I will use browser to inject or manipulate the request. Netcat SSL issue, vproxy, is enabled. And after that, we can initiate any console command. In this context, we initiate multi-endpoint meeting request. This is the meeting request. We invite all the users. We can select all of them, or we can add them to the headers, endpoint headers. I made it after this video as well, but it is not presented here. So we can use like this, or using vproxy as well. Both are available. Test. And when we send test, my environment is slightly slow because it is running almost 12 VMs. Meanwhile, I will explain why I'm not having a kind of live demo. Test 1 is an invitation for the clients. Meanwhile, I added a message auto replacement for auto-pound, and it will replace using my template pound, which is a redirection to the Metasploit. And it will send this using auto-pound. And meanwhile, the server will send those requests, and the browsers will be triggered. And meanwhile, we are having connections, and at a point, we will have multiple shells from multiple users. So we can use this attack to actually exploit all the users in the same environment using only JavaScript. Of course, we need a kind of browser exploit or a kind of update, a kind of social engineering stuff, but you can customize it. What I'm doing now is adding some social engineering templates for this tool and support. So our team will add some social engineering attacks on it. Also, we will add some additional features. But I'm still working on the server errors to make them remote code executions. Also, I am still testing the business components, business logic, because we use it for calls. How about that? Is it possible to inject fake identities, call spoofing, call fraud? Or can we redirect our calls? Those are the questions I'm wondering, and we'll see soon. And second stage of the research will have all of them. Mobile clients and Sky for Business web application, meeting security. We will focus on them. Also, we will focus on the federation security as well, because we can send all those malicious requests through the proxies and zip trunks as well, without any authentication. Also, we will analyze the crashes we have. We will also provide some additional features for Vproy 4, and it will have Sky for Business authentication support, and we can use the regular Vproy features and attacks already there for Sky for Business environment. Okay, what can we do to make it secure? That is the question. What I see is design is the main issue here. So we need to make it secure. Our corporate design, voice over IP design, must be secure. We should not put all the voice over IP components and server and the clients in the same environment. We should provide a kind of isolation between them. But what we see is even the call centers, agents, and the server and the other components, they are working in the same environment, in a single environment, and other servers can be compromised easily. Also, it provides some compliance errors as well, because the voice calls, which are referred to using the SRTP implementation, have the IVR codes, right? If you dial your credit card, it will be encoded in the RTP stream. I'm not saying that it is recorded. It is encoded. When you have the RTP stream without any decode, you will see the numbers. So it must be encrypted. So we have some additional issues. That's why design is important. And of course, we will suggest, please disable HTML instant messaging. And also, please follow the security updates, which will be released by Microsoft soon. And after that, we will release all the tool and the detailed advisory, a white paper, and other stuff to protect our customers again. We are so peaceful these days. Who knows? Maybe evil next days. I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi today. Who knows? Now, those are the links. If you visit vproy.com, you will see all the videos all the presentations and all other stuff. And I hope you will follow them. But please remember this: we also hiring highly talented people. So if you want to join us, just visit that link. I need your feedback to shape the second stage. I'm still working on the server box. I'm still working on the business logic issues. But if you have customized requests, I'll be appreciated. I hope you are enjoyed. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatih.
Thanks.
We're actually out of time, but I want to give you at least somebody a chance to ask questions in the back over there.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I'm so friendly here.
That's right.
I let my bird just like a blank, you know.
Yeah,
it is fine.
Nothing like the 185 centimeter, rather large guy in the back of the room to keep you honest, right?
Okay.
No, actually, we really appreciate the research. I noticed you have a little Windows problem there. We're going to throw an MSDN license to you and take care of that to keep your research going.
I have not activated yet. Actually, this is pretty important for your all guys. If you want to research on a Microsoft product, you can do this using trial editions. Otherwise, you will burn at least 12 Windows 2012 R2 licenses. Or you will use your MSDN account. But I'm not an MSDN guy, sorry.
No, and actually it's a good point. And
yes.
For those who do send research to us, if you have stuff like that, we're more than happy to share MSDN licenses. So if you've got cases that you've sent to us, you've got cases you want to send to us, we can take care of those sorts of problems. Thanks, Fatih.
Thank you to you.
Thank you very much.
Any tech questions or requests for the future second stage? Because we will focus on the other stuff as well. And please remember that as a kind of conclusion. Voice over IP is an easy win for all your mobile devices and for your all Soho routers, for your all smart modems, and for all everything. Because they're all connected to a kind of voice over IP backend at the configuration or maybe at the embedded infrastructure. That's why I demonstrated them last year using a kind of hardware implants, using mobile platforms, web vulnerabilities, privilege escalations, cloud as well. Because when we refer to the voice over IP, it's a broad area. I've only demonstrated some of the components. There's a question, I believe.
Okay, final question because we have to go for lunch soon.
They're starving.
On one of your last slides, what did you mean with physical security of endpoints?
Endpoints can be the IP phones or a teleconference device or any hardware component. And people use IP phones as a kind of courtesy for their visitors, as a kind of reception. For example, you can use that phone to call a taxi. Mm-hmm. It will be there. But if it is not secure, we can change it. Maybe, let's say that last year, I put a kind of Raspberry Pi inside a Cisco IP phone to prepare a kind of hardware implant to make it there. Phone will be working as well, and it will provide an access between the VLANs inside. So basically, we will have a kind of persistent access using that area. So we will only update the phone. We will just change the phone as a kind of technician. Game over.
Well, but for example, already like the entire banking security is already working on the security model that the endpoint is compromised.
Endpoint, there are some additional security layers for the endpoints as well. If an endpoint is disconnected, this is a problem. It's a kind of major problem. Also, we need to put some kind of hardware tampering protections on the devices in share, because they will be in a kind of public meeting room. So people can use that meeting room for multiple purposes. For example, a kind of business meeting or a kind of fun. So they can use those teleconference devices as well. What you need to do is making them secure with hardware tampering protections, and the server should follow all the endpoints. If they are disconnected, if their voltage level is changed for the power over Ethernet, this is another sign. And they should be also monitored using other features, because almost all of them support other remote management features Cisco, Avaya, even Microsoft for Polycom IP phones, they implement some client management issues and services. So basically, I'm saying issues because last year I provided 12 plus 0 days for Cisco Communications Unified Domain Manager hosted environment, and they couldn't fix the bug because the service was in use for IP phone management to follow them and their actions, but it had no authentication. And they removed that feature after my presentation because they couldn't fix it because there's no fix for that. You need to design another secure method to manage all the phones. And we try to provide additional solutions on it as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
My
Fatih,
pleasure.
give him a warm applause.
Thank you.